So here we are, back in the coin creating corner, or the ring thing, ding. Light on. This is, I think, one of the nicer coins to make into a ring. And given that it's 1944, I think it's in pretty good condition. There's some slight issues around here on the reed, but that's not a problem because that gets machined anyway. As I fold it, that will disappear. Machined, squished, you know what I mean. What I do need to decide is what size hole to knock into it. We need to keep this circular bit here and also try and keep the 1 rupee, and I can't remember for the life of me what size punch I used last time. I'm sorry, that's my t-shirt. I'm reasonably sure, sorry, not in focus, 7/16. Oh, do you know, it might not have been. Might have been 1/2 inch. Oh dear. I'm sure that's 1/2 inch, yeah, that's 1/2 inch. It was, you know. So we need a 1/2 inch hole bashing into this, because that way we keep the centre, and the centre would make, I don't know, like a lucky charm on a charm bracelet or something, or even just something on a key ring. So 1/2 inch hole it is. That's a surprise. I'd pretty much thought. Anyway, good. Now, if you haven't seen this before, this is the bit that everybody always tends to get a little bit worried about when I do this. And why, I hear you say, did you just do that? Why did you just set light to the thing? The reason is that, and I know it looks pretty damaged now, not at all shiny. The reason is that silver and copper need to be annealed, and heating it up makes them softer. And when you make it softer, it makes it easier to do things like bash a hole in them. So this is a self-centering punch. If I can get, oops, I can never tell with this one which way around it's supposed to go. Doesn't really matter, but it goes in that way. Now when I say self-centering, I mean there's a cone in here, so that cone, as it pushes down, will force that ring into coin into the centre. And again, I'm doing this one-handed, so that's it. Right, so that's now centred it. What we then do is pop it up on, sorry, let's move the Dremel, pop it up on here, I put the light on so we can see it. And then, I need 2 hands for this, just a sec. Now we put some of this lube on the punch. And we pop it in here. And then we start to bring, it's just a 6-ton press. centre there. And that's now punched a hole straight through that coin. And there we have oops, focus. Look at that. Let's get the coin out, which involves taking this out, turning it upside down, putting it in there and hitting it with a hammer. Can't show you that, need two hands. You probably could show you that. I've taken that out. So this is how it punches through. We just put that in there, we've got a soft-headed, and there we have a punched out ring, ready to, well, coin ready to make it into a ring. So that's the first stage. Next I take one of these deburring tools and we clean the inside where that hole has been punched, and the reason for that is that needs to be absolutely perfect and no imperfections. As I've said before in other videos, just one tiny little scratch in there can form into a split in a microsecond. So that inside there where that hole's been punched needs to be cleaned and polished to make sure there's no imperfections. And then back over there on the blowtorch to anneal it again. Next time we come back, it will be just after I've annealed it. Otherwise this video will go on all day. So now that centre's been cleaned and the ring re-annealed, I use a deburring tool to take off the silver shavings, and these are some of the silver shavings that I've done from various different rings, and at some point I will try and melt that all down and I might get 1/10 of a gram of silver. It's only part silver, so it won't be worth very much, but I just think for the experience of melting it down. Now this is a forming die. I'll show you the slightly larger one. This has got a 17-degree angle inside, and it's made by our friend Jason Stitchfield over in Texas. Hi Jason, I hope you're doing well, mate. I know you haven't been very well recently, so sending hugs and loves and vibes from Sheffield in the UK. So this now fits into, and the reason I like these American made dies is that they're imperial sizes, and so a lot of the coins I work with, all the coins I work with really, are either pre-decimal or pre-moving over to sizes which aren't imperial sizes. Now this is a little forming die, stainless steel forming die, and this is how we start the process. That is it. Believe it or not, that's the start of a ring. So that can go back. The way I used to do it was kind of like with ball bearings and stuff, and a hammer. ball bearing and hammer. So that now has started shape of the ring, and the more I start to shape it, you will see how the imperfection that I mentioned on the outside reed will disappear. And now you'll also see where that beautiful design around the outside really comes into its own. Next, guess what? Back on there. Every time I machine it in such a way as to move the molecules within the metal, they fuse and they work harden. So I'll need to anneal it at every single stage in order to ensure it's malleable enough to shape. It takes a while, but it's worth it. And at every stage, keep an eye on that inside edge to make sure there's absolutely there's no chance of even the slightest scratch or crack turning into a split, because that can happen just so quickly and you lose the entire coin, which would be such a shame, especially as they're quite expensive. But there you go. And you'll also see, if I get the pencil on here, oops, you'll also see this is that circle that was a part of the ring design, now forms the non-reeded edge. So where we cut out, let's put that there. Oop, come on, focus please. So where we cut that out on there, this is all a part of the design has been carried over to here. So when this was made, this ring would have been designed with a 1/2 inch design in the middle, if that makes sense. Right, anneal it, and then we'll come back to the next stage, which really involves taking these, I think they're like, kind of like glass fibre composite cones, and then keep pushing it in until it's more ringy like. And then we just keep going like that, which is going to be a pretty boring video until I've finished doing the stretching. So back when I finished doing this particular part in these 17-degree forming dies. Now these are handy little things. They come in quite a large size, and then you just cut them down with skizzers, little foam sanding blocks. This is 220 grit, and this cleans the non-reed edge. Again, can never overemphasize that the slightest imperfection will ruin the ring, especially in this next stage. Now I've formed it pretty much halfway into a ring. What we do next is we put it on this machine, and I'm not actually do it because I need to cushion it with some kitchen paper, but as you'll see, this comes up, this pushes up and forces these splines out, which then opens that more. But the way I will do it is, I'm not going to be able to do this one-handed, am I? Oh, perhaps I am. I'll put it down so that this cushions the coin, or almost ring, between there and these stainless steel splines. And the reason for that is I want to retain as much of the detail on the inside as possible. So I don't want metal against metal, because it will squish the detail in the softer metal, which is this. So paper towel. That's a little tip from Jason. Cheers, Jace. Right, I've got to do this with both hands now to get it into a bit of a ring shape. Now I'm just waiting to clarify with the customer what actual size they would like, because on the non-reeded side we now have that to a size U. Oh. So what we would then need to do is bring these outside edges in to make a ring. Aha! But the non-reeded edge is always thinner than the reeded edge. This is the reeded edge, so you can see how broad that is compared to that. So we will always size a ring, I will always size a ring on the reeded edge. So that means bringing that in to a size U. Now, if we have a look This is going to be one of my bad drawings again. If we were to cut through, boom, there, we would find that we have something like this with a larger area on here, because the center of the coin is always going to be thinner. So this is where I will then shave the inside off a little, and that makes it more comfortable and gives it a nicer fit. But I'm not going to do that until we've actually pulled these outside edges in a little bit, and I'm not going to do that until I hear back from the customer what size they would actually like, because squishing this in isn't difficult, but I don't want to squish it in then pull it out and squish it in then pull it out, then that sounds wrong. So what I'll do while I'm waiting is have a coffee. While I'm waiting, I just thought I'd give you a quick idea of how these look once they are cleaned up a little bit. This is how it comes out of the annealing process, and then this is just with a tiny little buff of one of those nail things, what Charlotte uses, and I would too if ever I had half decent fingernails. And you'll see how that then brings out the detail. Now there's several ways of finishing these off. You can polish them, highly polish them, which look nice. It does look nice, I won't deny it. Or you can use a black infill and then use the buff there to bring out the detail around the edge. And I think this ring benefits from that particular process. Now you'll also have a look and observe around the rim where I was talking earlier about the slight imperfections that were in the reeded edge have then been pretty much smoothed out. So when you're working with old coins, 75-year-old coins, I've done one which was 152 years old, you usually find the main damage is around the reed. If there's damage on the face or on the the detail, generally then they're not very good for making into a ring. But this one's worked really nicely. So there we have, that's just as it's annealed, and that's with a little bit of polish just on the detail. I phoned and left a message, and the customer has just called me back. Had a nice chat. We're going to go over a size U, but it's his son, so we might have to upsize it or downsize it. It's not a problem. So what I'm going to do now is bring the outsides in, as I'll show you a little bit on this diagram here. Because it's cone shaped at the moment, we need to straighten these edges so it looks like a ring rather than a cone. Then I need to be very careful how we trim here. I mean, this is an exaggerated view, by the way. That is then to try and straighten this as much as possible to get a comfortable fit. We assess the comfort by how rounded I can make this part, because this is where we have the main contact. Because it's cone shaped, this is going to be oversized. That'll probably be a W, maybe even, well, whatever. First, push it in. The way we do that is wrap it in PTFE tape. Now the reason for that obviously is for the same reason that I put the kitchen paper on the mandrel parts to protect the inside detail. We wrap it in lots of PTFE tape because we're going to squish it through a cone. But first I need to remove the excess from here so that the push rod doesn't slip. And the easy way to do that is just pop it into one of these 17-degree dies again, give it a tiny little tap. That's all that's needed. And then, as if by magic, so that then, if we leave a layer of PTFE on the top, the push rod, people are always amazed how I managed to film all this nonsense with one hand. Oh, yeah, film it and do stuff with one hand. So let's get our coconut, oops, eesh, and line. And then pop in our ring and level it up. That's not too bad, good. And then pop that on there. And now this is where I'm going to stop filming for a minute, because we push this, then we push that down and it squishes the ring in. If you have a look inside this die, this is known as a Swedish wrap, because there's a Swedish chap who invented this principle of shrinking a coin ring down to size. These are beautifully made, lovely sort of tall link stainless steel. So let's push that down and see where we go. I think that's probably about as far as we need to go. If we was going to push it all the way through, I'd put this underneath that die. So now let's just release that. And take these away. Bring this over here. Move the clipboard. Remove this. I shall unwrap it and then we'll see what size we have. 1 second. Moment of truth. Now we want the reed side to be about a U once I've trimmed off the inside. Look at that. I think I've been doing this too long. I'm actually getting to know what I'm talking about. How about that? And also pushing it down through that Swedish wrap does make it more ring-like than cone-like. I will need to bring this edge out. If you remember, on here, this edge is always going to be wider. And once I've trimmed the inside a little bit of that reed, it should be more comfortable to wear, and it should expand it enough to make it a size U. I shall do that now. So now I've shaved off some of that inside reed. I've left a little bit of a step because you need to feel that it is a coin still, but I think that shouldn't be far off a size U now. Oops, one-handed, make a good one-handed juggler. Look at that. Ha ha ha. Ah, do you know what? Who said retirement is God's waiting room? I'm well pleased with that. So we have now got a size U on the reed side, but what we do need to do is pull the non-reeded side out so that it does make a ring rather than a cone. And again, we do that back on the Durston ring stretcher. But of course, we've got to fire it up first and anneal it. Once again, long process this, you know, enjoyable. That's what I scooped off the inside. Looks like a lot, but it's like a Brillo pad. You know, a Brillo pad looks like there's lots of metal in it. There's not. If you was to melt it down, it'd be, you know, a tiny amount. And it's the same with silver. Right, let's get annealing it and then stretching it. Yes, of course, it's just been annealed again. Now this time we put the ring on reed side down because we want to stretch this bit, but we don't really want to stretch this bit. And again, kitchen towel ensures that there's a nice cushion between metal on metal, so we won't destroy any of that inside detail. But again, I need to use both hands. It is almost pretty much finished. Now, to open this out, to get it to be ring shaped and level, this stretches a tiny amount. So the way we overcome that is we'll pop it back into a die. This is the actual ring die on the Durston, and level it up, and then ever so slightly. It didn't seem like very much, but what that's done, I don't know if you can see around that reeded edge on the outside, it's just pushed it in a little bit, and then we have almost perfect ring. In fact, that's all right. Next we polish it up. Now because I'm going to put a patina on this, I'm not going to put a high polish on there. The patina is to bring out all of this detail. The patina I'm going to use is called liver of sulphur. It's it's an ancient jeweller's practice. But first I'm going to clean it, and the way we clean it is in one of these, which of course I haven't turned on. It's Saturday. I'm allowed to be a little bit mad professor. So, right, this then gets popped in there, not for long, only for about 10 minutes, just to clean it. Then it gets dunked in acetone, takes any potential residual oils off of it. Then I put it in the oven and warm it up, and then I dunk it in here, which will contain a mixture of liver of sulphur, which I'm hoping that I've still got some left. Hooray! Plenty. Only need a few drops of it, and it will then leave the ring black. I'll then need to just carefully polish the inside and polish off the top of the detail, if that makes sense, and leave the liver of sulphur on the indent. I don't think I've filmed this process before. This has just come out of the oven. This is the liver of sulphur, and this is hot water in a shot glass, and we literally only need a very small amount. Give it a stir. Whoops, sorry, keep you on camera. A little bit more. Doesn't take much. So this is literally hot water and liver of sulphur. We then get a pair of pliers, not pliers. Oh dear. Tweezers. Look at that now. It's not focusing. Look at that now. And then watch what happens in there. It literally just takes less than a minute. Oh, come on. In real time. Now, liver of sulphur is acidic, so we come out of there and straight into bicarbonate of soda. That then neutralizes the acid. That's then done. So I need to pop the cap back on there without burning myself on what's just come out of the oven. And there we have. Doesn't that look attractive, boys and girls? Now what we do is we use, coming back again to these, I'll get a clean one, new one out of here. That's how much PTFE tape, by the way, I managed to get through, quite a lot. So I'm going to open a new one of these, use both hands and polish that and show you what I mean. And that is the beautiful antique patina it leaves on it. I wonder if I can zoom in while still retaining some focus. So again, on the inside I've left some patina on the inside. These are, considering this is 75, well 6 now, 76 years old. Beautiful, beautiful detail. Right. Next it goes back into the acetone just to clean all the oil from my fingers off. And then it goes into a ceramic lacquer and then hardened oft. So after it's been in the ceramic lacquer, I'll plonk it onto some crumpled up tin foil, and that just means that there isn't a flat edge on the bottom sat. So there's only a few places it will sit on there, so the lacquer can drip down, then you can clean it off with foam. So let's do that then, and then come back when it's finished. And that, as they say, is that. Now obviously all lacquers will wear off, and as I always try and tell people, you can replace the lacquer with just a nail varnish gel, but I'm quite pleased with the way that has turned out. Now here's the thing to bear in mind. This isn't really anything other than a little bit of machinery. There's no real skill involved as such, and it's something that I've picked up over, I don't know, the last few years, not a lifetime. And the point of this is anyone can do stuff like this. It might not necessarily be this, it might be some other activity, but the important thing, when everything else around you seems really unstable and unsteady and a bit intimidating, and let's face it, this year, whew, bloody scary. Sometimes our mind plays tricks on us and it tells us things are happening that might not necessarily be happening. A valuable strategy is to give yourself an escape from that. Focusing on something like this, it might not be this, it might be woodworking, it might be some kind of welding art out of old spoons. Anyone can teach themselves to weld. It might be completely redoing your garden or building a I don't know, building something. Don't be a victim to either anxiety or stress or depression. Find an escape. Literally anyone can do this. I used to do this by drilling a hole in a coin and then putting it on a mandrel like that and hitting it with a hammer to bend it around, and that's how I'd make the rings. You don't need all of this machinery. This just makes it easier for me, and it does give a really nice product at the end, but you don't need it. Anyone can do it. At the moment, 2020, whoa, like seriously guys, we all need an escape from what's happened this year. So whatever it is, throw yourself into it and allow it to take your mind off of all the crap. That's it for now. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. This will be going on a couple of my YouTube channels, made by Martin and my own personal one. to follow, just click the subscribe button, click the little bell. It'll inform you whenever I post something similar. I think the Made by Martin YouTube channel, we only put that up a little while ago. It's probably only got half a dozen subscribers, if that. So it'd be great if you want to join that channel. Right. Until next time, stay safe.